So you're looking to get the full story, right? The complete picture, but without, slogging through tons of articles and data.
Exactly.
Well, that's pretty much what we're serving up right here.
Yeah, think of this as your express route.
Yeah.
Your shortcut to understanding everything that makes MotoGP just so captivating.
And today, we're diving deep into that world. High-octane MotoGP.
We've sifted through all the material from the very beginning right up to what might be next.
And captivating is definitely the word. I mean, you just picture it, don't you? Riders on these unbelievable machines pushing past, 220 miles per hour?
Easily.
Leaning at angles that just seem physically impossible, knees practically scraping the track.
It is insane.
Yeah.
It looks insane, but it's utterly mesmerizing.
Completely.
So our goal today, really, is to unravel that spectacle, explore the history, the evolution, using all the stuff we've looked at.
Right.
We want to show how it all began, the legends who shaped it, the tech breakthroughs.
The whole story, from then till now, and maybe even a glimpse beyond.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's fire this deep dive up right at the start. Where did it all begin? Because motorcycle racing goes way back, further than you might think.
It does. The first officially recognized race,
that
was in France, way back in 1896.
Wow, 1896.
But the Grand Prix World Championship, the thing we know now, that came a bit later.
That was the FEHM, right? The Fédération Internationale de Motocyclisme.
Spot on. They formally set up the World Championship Grand Prix road racing in 1949. That's the official birth date.
1949. And back then, it wasn't just one class like MotoGP today.
No, it was structured differently. 4 classes based on engine size, engine displacement.
Let me see if I remember. 125cc.
Yeah.
250cc. 350cc. And the big one, the 500cc class.
That's the one. And that 500cc class, that's the direct ancestor, the lineage, that leads straight to modern MotoGP.
It's amazing to think about the difference, though, those early days versus now.
Oh, night and day. The bikes themselves were, much more primitive.
And the safety, or lack thereof.
Yeah, minimal is putting it mildly. You had leather suits, sure, but not like today's airbag tech. Open-face helmets.
Open face.
And the circuits, often just public roads lined with trees, walls.
No runoff areas.
Pretty much none.
Yeah.
It was incredibly raw. You had to be, fearless doesn't quite cover it.
It sounds terrifying, frankly. A different kind of mindset entirely.
It really does.
Yeah.
A different perception of risk, maybe. But that era produced some absolute legends.
Okay, legends. Who stands out from back then?
Well, you can't not start with Giacomo Agostini.
Of course.
15 world championships. 15. Between 66 and 75, mostly on the MV Agusta.
And that record still stands, doesn't it? Nobody's beaten 15?
Still stands. Unbeaten. It's remarkable.
Yeah.
Partly down to MV Agusta's dominance then, maybe fewer races per season, but his talent was just undeniable. Less parity in the bikes back then, too, probably.
Makes sense. And another huge name from around that time, Mike Hailwood. Mike the Bike.
Ah, yes. Mike Hailwood. Multiple champion in the 60s. Absolute icon.
But that comeback story.
Isle of Man TT return. That's just epic.
He'd been away for, 11 years?
11 years away from bike racing. Comes back to the TT, the most dangerous race on the planet.
And wins.
1978. It just captures that whole era,
Yeah.
Skill, bravery, facing down incredible danger.
And speaking of the TT, that used to be part of the Grand Prix Championship.
It did, yeah. Right up until 1976. Then the safety concerns just became too much. It was pulled from the championship calendar.
Which really highlights the risks, doesn't it? The TT's history is, tragic in many ways. Over 250 rider deaths over the years.
It's a stark reminder. And it still runs today, of course, as its own separate legendary event.
But that growing awareness of safety around the time the TT left the championship, that sort of coincided with another big shift, didn't it?
It did. We started seeing the rise of the Japanese manufacturers. Honda had been around earlier, but Yamaha, Suzuki, they really started making their mark in the 70s.
Right. What was their big impact? Challenging the European factories.
Exactly. They brought new engineering, new technology, really pushed the development forward. And this era also gave us some American heroes.
Kenny Roberts.
Kenny Roberts, the first American to win the 500cc title, 1978.
And he didn't just win, he changed how people rode, that knee-down style.
Revolutionized cornering. Everyone does it now, but Roberts really pioneered it, brought it to the forefront, and he backed it up 3 titles in a row, 78, 79, 80.
Incredible consistency.
Then hot on his heels, another American, Freddie Spencer.
Best Freddie.
Became the youngest ever 500cc champion in 1983. And that record stood for, 30 years? until Márquez broke it.
30 years. Shows you just how special Spencer was.
Definitely. Which leads us into, well, what many people call a golden age, the 80s, early 90s.
The rivalries. Lawson, Gardner, Schwantz, Rainey. Just epic battles.
It was an amazing time. So much talent, competitive bikes, pushing each other absolutely to the limit, week in, week out. Unpredictable, like gladiators out there.
Absolutely. Then the mid-90s.
Right.
One name dominated.
Mick Doohan.
5 straight 500cc titles, 94 through 98. Just incredible dominance on the Honda.
And what makes Doohan's story even more amazing is the injury he overcame.
That crash in 92, it was career-threatening, wasn't it? Nearly lost his leg.
Horrific crash. Near amputation. Doctors were ready to remove the leg. He fought back from that, learned to use a thumb brake because his ankle wasn't strong enough, and then went on that 5-year winning streak.
That's unbelievable courage. Resilience.
It really underscores the physical toll, the danger. You mentioned Wayne Rainey earlier. Leading the championship in 93 has that terrible crash, paralyzed.
Yeah.
A devastating reminder of the risks.
Yeah. Just brutal. And those bikes they were riding, the 500cc two-strokes?
The wild machines.
That's what they called them, right? Why?
Because they were wild. Two-stroke engines have this really explosive power delivery. Very sudden, very peaky.
Not smooth.
Not smooth at all. And minimal electronics back then. No traction control, no anti-wheelie to speak of.
So just raw power and rider skill.
Pretty much. Raw talent and pure bravery to keep those things tamed. We're talking over 200 horsepower in a bike weighing maybe 130 kilos.
Wow. Light and incredibly powerful.
Very prone to wheelies, massive slides. Incredibly demanding. A huge contrast to today's bikes.
Which brings us to the next big shift, 2002.
The big one. The birth of modern MotoGP as we know it.
This was the switch from those 500cc two-strokes
to 990cc four-strokes.
Why the change? Was it about road relevance, technology?
A bit of both. A move towards, let's say, more sustainable engine tech, closer to production bikes. Greener image, maybe?
Yeah.
And it also ushered in the era of an absolute global superstar.
You can't talk MotoGP history without him. Valentino Rossi.
The doctor.
Impossible. His impact was just immense.
9 world titles across all the classes. But it was more than the winning, wasn't it?
Oh, way more. His personality, the charisma, the post-race celebrations, that connection he had with fans all over the world.
He made MotoGP mainstream almost single-handedly. He really did. Brought in a massive new audience. And his rivalries, they were legendary, fueled so much drama.
First Biaggi, Gibernau.
Then later, the next generation. Stoner, Lorenzo.
Marquez.
And Márquez, yeah. Intense battle.
And his career length. Just staggering.
26 seasons. 26 at the very top level from 1996 to 2021. In a sport this tough, that's almost unbelievable longevity.
And he nearly got that 10th title, didn't he, in 2015?
Agonizingly close, at 36 years old.
But that season ended controversially.
Yeah, the whole thing with Márquez and Lorenzo in those final races, still debated endlessly today.
Yeah.
A huge chapter in the story.
Definitely. Now, while Rossi was dominating, the technology wasn't standing still either. The engine rules kept changing.
Right. We went from the initial 990cc four-strokes down to 800cc in 2007.
Why the drop? Safety. Slow them down.
That was the idea, yeah. Reduce top speeds. But then, in 2012, they went back up to 1,000cc, which is where we are now.
Might go back.
Better sound, more torque, maybe closer again to leader-class superbikes people buy.
Yeah.
And alongside these engine changes, the electronics just exploded.
Traction control, anti-wheelie, all that stuff.
Engine braking management, launch control. Incredibly sophisticated systems now. They manage the power, help prevent crashes, find grip.
Which must have initially given the big factory teams a huge advantage, right? Developing all that software.
Absolutely. Huge budget differences meant a big performance gap in electronics, which is why, in 2016, they brought in the standardized ECU.
The standard electronics unit. Same for everyone.
Exactly. To try and level the playing field, put more emphasis back on rider skill, chassis setup, things like that, make the racing closer.
And another big leveling move was the tires, wasn't it?
Yeah, the single tire supplier rule.
Yeah.
First Bridgestone took over in 2009, then Michelin came back in 2016.
So no more tire wars where one brand might have a big advantage at a certain track.
We eliminated that variable. Everyone's on the same rubber.
Okay, so standard electronics, single tire supplier. And then came Márquez.
And then came Marc Márquez. Wow. The 2010s were just his decade.
That riding style, so aggressive, those unbelievable saves, elbow down, knee down.
He just redefined what looked possible on a MotoGP bike.
Yeah.
Pushing the absolute limit of physics, it seemed.
How dominant was he? 6 titles.
6 MotoGP titles in 7 years. 2013 to 2019. And honestly, most people think he'd have kept going if not for that bad injury in 2020.
Right, the arm injury.
His ability to pick the bike up when it looked gone, using his elbows, his knees,
Right.
those extreme lean angles, it was revolutionary.
And everyone else had to adapt, didn't they? Just like Rossi influenced riders, Márquez forced everyone to change their style again.
Totally. Body position, how they entered corners, trying to find that extra lean angle, dragging the elbow.
Yeah.
You had to adapt to compete.
Now, while Márquez was rewriting the rule book on riding, another manufacturer was seriously stepping up its game. Ducati.
Yeah, Ducati's resurgence has been huge. Casey Stoner gave them that first title way back in 2007.
On the Bridgestones, yeah.
But then they had a long spell, kind of in the wilderness, before becoming the dominant force we've seen more recently in the early 2020s.
What was the key for them? Engineering.
I think so. That relentless focus on engine power, straight line speed. Their bike, the Desmo Sedici, is just a rocket.
And the aerodynamics. They really pioneered all those wings, didn't they?
They absolutely did. They pushed the aero development aggressively. What started as small winglets turned into these incredibly complex packages you see now.
The aerodynamics revolution, they call it.
Yeah, and it works. It creates downforce, improves stability under braking, acceleration.
But it's had side effects too, right? Making it harder to follow another bike.
That's the big downside. The turbulent air, the dirty air coming off these complex aero packages makes it much harder for a rider to slipstream or get close enough to overtake in corners. It definitely affects the racing dynamic.
Okay, so aero, electronics. What else is new? Oh, the sprint races, introduced in 2023.
Right. That was a big shakeup to the weekend format, a shorter race on Saturday, half points, in addition to the main Grand Prix on Sunday.
More racing action for the fans, I guess.
Definitely increases the action across the weekend, but it also brings new strategies for teams, setup compromises, tire management.
And it must be tougher on the riders. 2 races instead of 1.
Oh, undeniably.
Yeah.
The physical demands have definitely increased. It's basically 2 high-intensity races every weekend now.
So looking at where we are now, sort of mid-2020s, the grid is packed with young talent coming up.
Incredibly talented wave, lots of fast riders graduating from Moto2 and Moto3.
And you have to mention Rossi's influence again here, right? The VR46 Academy.
Absolutely. His academy has become a major pipeline, nurturing so many of these top Italian riders coming through. His legacy extends way beyond his own track time.
And the sport itself keeps expanding globally.
Yeah, it's not just the traditional European heartland anymore. We've got races in Thailand, Indonesia, India, Argentina, reaching new audiences. It's truly global now.
The manufacturers have shifted a bit, too. Suzuki left.
Yeah, that was a surprise at the end of 2022.
But Aprilia and KTM are right up there now, challenging Honda, Yamaha, Ducati.
Which is great for competition. Having more factories capable of winning races makes it much more exciting.
And something else that's becoming really important, sustainability.
Huge focus now. Motogp is committed to moving away from fossil fuels. They introduced 40% non-fossil origin fuels in 2024.
And the goal is 100% sustainable fuels soon.
By 2027, that's the target, which is pretty ambitious, but also really commendable.
And that push could have benefits beyond just MotoGP, couldn't it? Driving fuel tech?
Definitely. The R&D required for high-performance sustainable fuels could eventually trickle down to road bikes, maybe even cars. It's a powerful driver for innovation.
So let's gaze into the crystal ball a bit. Looking ahead, what are the big things shaping MotoGP's future? That sustainability push is obviously key.
For sure. Getting to 100% sustainable fuels by 2027 is a massive engineering challenge and will define a lot of the technical development.
What about the aero? Will they let the arms race continue or try to rein it in?
That's the big debate. Aerodynamics are crucial now, but there's definitely talk about needing some limitations to stop it getting out of control, maybe help overtaking, keep the racing close and exciting. It's a tricky balance.
And electrification? We see electric cars everywhere. Will MotoGP go hybrid?
Well, they have the separate MotoE series, which is all electric. But hybrid tech in MotoGP itself, it's possible down the line, maybe small electric motors for a power boost, like KERS in F1 years ago.
Interesting. That would be a fundamental change. And rider safety, always evolving, right?
Always a priority. Better gear, safer tracks. But maybe we'll see more active safety systems on the bikes too. Things that could potentially predict a crash scenario or help mitigate it. AI-assisted safety.
Wow. And the fan experience, how will that change?
Oh, loads of potential there. Think more immersive viewing, widespread 360 cameras on bikes, maybe real-time biometric data from riders shown on screen.
Heart rate, G-forces?
Exactly. Augmented reality overlays at the track, or even full VR experiences for fans watching from home. really putting you in the action.
That sounds amazing, like stepping onto the bike virtually. What about more races? New countries?
Expansion is likely still on the agenda. Middle East, Africa, maybe China eventually. There's potential. But again, they have to balance that growth with the massive strain it puts on teams and riders. The calendar's already packed.
Yeah, it's a long season. And how we watch it. Will it move beyond the dedicated video pass to bigger streaming platforms?
Seems logical, doesn't it? Partnering with major streamers like Netflix or Amazon could expose MotoGP to a whole new global audience. Makes sense in today's media world.
What about the rules on track? More parity measures, budget caps?
Could happen. Refining the concessions for struggling factories, maybe even exploring budget caps like F1 has. It's all about trying to keep the competition close and unpredictable.
And the bikes themselves. We've had these 1000cc engines for a while now. Another change coming, especially if hybrid tech arrives.
It's a fair question. The current rules have lasted quite a long time. Hybrid power could definitely trigger a rethink of engine size, overall design. And with aero being so dominant, you wonder if the fundamental look of a GP bike might change drastically again.
It's just wild thinking about that whole journey, from those basic 1949 bikes to these winged electronic monsters.
That's incredible.
But you're right, despite all the tech, it still comes down to the human on top. It's still incredibly demanding, incredibly dangerous.
That's the magic, isn't it? The tech pushes the limits, but it's the rider's skill, their bravery, their physical conditioning. That's what truly makes MotoGP special.
And the riders coming through now seem so prepared. The feeder series, the academies.
Yeah, the whole pathway road to MotoGP, things like the VR46 Academy we mentioned, it's much more professionalized. Plus, the physical training is elite athlete level now. They arrive in MotoGP ready to perform.
It's good to see more diversity in the paddock, too, isn't it? Not just riders, but engineers, managers.
Definitely. More women in key roles, more initiatives like the Asian Talent Cup, trying to find riders from different regions, positive steps.
And for fans actually at the track, what could change? More data, more access.
Imagine getting team radio snippets on your phone in the grandstand, or instant replays and data overlays through an app, augmented reality pointing out riders.
Wow.
Lots of possibilities to enhance the live experience.
And the role of AI. You touched on safety, but where else could it feature?
Oh, everywhere, potentially. Bike development, race strategy, tire wear prediction, optimizing lines, maybe even AI coaching tools,
Right.
Analyzing rider data,
Wow.
and even more connected bikes, maybe making tiny adjustments automatically based on conditions, tire state, fuel load.
It really paints a fascinating picture, looking back at where it started, where it is now, and all these possibilities for the future.
It's been an amazing ride, hasn't it? From 1949 right through to today, and looking at what's potentially around the corner.
And like you said, the core appeal,
Hmm.
it's still there. That blend of bleeding edge technology and just raw human courage and skill.
Pushing the limits. That's what it's always been about.
Precisely. It's a captivating mix, and it keeps evolving.
Constantly.
So here's something to really chew on as we wrap up. How is that balance going to shift, between the technology getting ever smarter and the pure human element, the rider skill? How will that dance continue to play out? And maybe more excitingly, what completely unexpected innovations are waiting just over the horizon? Things we haven't even thought of yet that might just pop up in the next 5 or 10 years and change everything again.
Yeah.
It's definitely a story that's still being written chapter by chapter, and absolutely one worth keeping a very close eye on.